Here's what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Oregon Ducks are dancing after winning the Pac-12 tournament in Las Vegas. Oregon is an 11 seed. They will face 6 seed South Carolina. 1 o'clock local tip time in Pittsburgh. Speaking of Pittsburgh, the Steelers made quarterback moves over the weekend as Kenny Pickett was traded away to the Philadelphia Eagles, leaving just Russell Wilson on the roster. And then a day later, traded a 6th-round pick to the Chicago Bears for Justin Fields. So Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, both members of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Women's NCAA tournament, Oregon State is a 3 seed, and they will host Eastern Washington on Friday at Gill Coliseum. And the Blazers return to action tonight. They'll be taking on the Chicago Bulls at Moda Center. Coming up, Steve Tannen, friend of the program from 95.3 The Score down in Eugene. Talk about Dana Altman's, once again, magical March run, but RCM on a Monday starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. And a very happy Monday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers, super producer Brenden. Safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Monday. Oh, boy, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. The brackets are out, everybody. The brackets are out. This is one of the things I love about sports. I love thousands upon thousands of things about sports. One of the things I love about sports is certain things just feel right. Certain things just feel right. Opening day of baseball, it just feels right. At the right particular time of the year, right particular time on the calendar. The Masters, it feels right to be watching the Masters coming up next month when we're going to be watching the Masters. College football on Labor Day weekend, it just feels right. And regardless of whether or not you've watched a second of college basketball all season long, or if you were like me, where you were just locked in and focused and multiple times angry about your own team, wondering what is wrong with the program, only to see them go on a magical run in March. More on that coming up in 20 minutes. Whether you just watch your team, whether you just watch your conference, whether you just dab, or whether you don't watch a lick of college basketball, you can't tell me you don't get excited when the brackets come out. You cannot tell me that you don't get a little bit of a magical feeling. What does that smell like? It smells like brackets. That's usually just toner, but kids don't understand about printing out brackets. But getting a fresh, clean bracket, knowing that on Thursday, in the middle of the office workday, you're going to be sneaking off watching a game at 10:30 a.m. of two teams that you do not care about. But because you picked one, you're going to care very much about that team. You're going to start texting your buddies who probably don't watch college basketball either about, wow, did you see that Duquesne finish? And then you got to learn how to spell Duquesne, right? It's Duquesne.
It's so hard.
It's a tough one. But you know what I mean? But and then you're going to hey, 12, who's your 12 over 5? And all this, it just feels right. It is one of the best things in sports is March Madness. And I know I do my fair share of complaining. And the fact that college basketball has put all of their chips into this one table. It's we will just own this part of the calendar. 3 weeks at the end of March, at the beginning of April, we're going to own it. And has that detracted a little bit from college basketball's regular season? Yeah, it has. But when it gets here, it feels so good. It feels so good to just be looking at brackets, researching teams, thinking about Final Fours and buzzer beaters in years past. There's just something about March Madness this time of year, especially, and I don't know, maybe it was the sun that came out this weekend. Just, it's got me in a giddy mood. It really does. It's one of the few things in sports, and it doesn't mean that people aren't going to start to tinker with it, but it is one of the few things in sports that they just got right. They just got it right. And I know there's going to be some playing games tomorrow. And by the way, this is why I love sports fans. There was a time. Brenden, do you remember this time? By the way, happy Monday, Brenden. I owe Brenden a coffee. Brenden was the only one that believed in my beloved Oregon Ducks. He said Oregon's going to win the Pac-12 tournament. He said that on Friday morning. I said, Brenden, you haven't watched Oregon play all year. I have. I watched this team underperform all season long. There is no way they are going to the Pac-12 tournament and beating Arizona in the semifinals with everything on the line for Arizona, a 1 seed on the line. Also, here's the other thing. Arizona fans are wildly sickos about the Pac-12 tournament. They kind of take ownership of it. They believe it belongs to them. They believe because they won the first one, even though that one was in L.A., but the Pac-12 tournament or the Pac-10 tournament has always been kind of Arizona's like, we're just going to take over Las Vegas moment. There's no way that team's going to bow out in the semis to a team they beat twice all year when Oregon's arguably best player is hurt for most of the first half. There's no way. Oh boy. Don't let Dana Altman get hot.
Thursday is good for me,
let Dana
Justin.
Altman get hot.
Thursday is good for me, Justin. I'm liking
Done and done. So
yeah.
we bet.
I'm liking the idea of double fancy coffees in a row this week to close out the week. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
In honor of the Thursday games, we'll have a fancy coffee Thursday and a fancy coffee Friday in honor of the NCAA tournament.
I'm not gonna lie, it felt pretty good, Justin. It may only be
let me ask
a $5 coffee or whatever it is,
but it's more than that because
it was fun.
What's better? And we are very lucky. And if I do not express that enough, let me tell you, I am so lucky to do this job. So lucky. It's almost better than money. Bragging rights. Bragging rights into a microphone. Bragging rights against loudmouth, hot air balloon that you work with every single day. Right? That's almost got to feel better, is that you get to take a 3-hour victory lap today as opposed to the coffee that you are going to get on Thursday that we bet on this. Like, that's got to feel so much better.
Every now and again, I've told people it's just nice when, like, you actually, like, have a feeling. You're like, okay, I do sports. I think this is not coming just from a place of being hot takey.
It's not a guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, like, I was actually right. But no, yeah, I mean, a lot of it was looking a little tight there for a minute. I mean, it was by no means just a cakewalk. But, the fact that Colorado still got in, and there was that rumor that if Oregon won, Colorado, like, it was the best thing for...
Is Colorado in? Is Colorado in?
Well,
they're playing tomorrow.
Technically, and I only add because, again, the materialistic weasels over here, Oregon State fans are counting the NCAA units that we'll be taking your money from.
Yeah.
So Colorado's money, Oregon's money, all of it's going to be coming back to us in Washington State.
How about that? It looked like the Pac-12 was going to be a two-bid conference. It was going to be Arizona and Washington State, and Washington State was kind of dwindling there towards the end, and it was like, but if the Pac-12 is going to be a two-bid, Oregon steals a bid, Colorado beats Utah, which apparently put them into the play-in. Those are play-ins. But like you said, what is it, $2 million every time?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's $2 million goes to Washington State and Oregon State.
Into the big pot, baby.
Every time that they win, or Arizona, like, people in Corvallis are going to be like huge Arizona fans. It's like, let's
keep going,
go,
baby.
Cats. Let's make a run.
Oregon wasn't getting in without winning the tournament. That's why I said,
we're not getting in whatsoever.
I think they wanted it.
That is a stolen bid, right? So the Big East is throwing a fit today. The Big East is having a conniption over there because I think Seton Hall and St. John's didn't get in, and
Rick.
Yeah, I know. And both of those teams, like, if you look at again, this is how out of touch I kind of am. I watch Oregon. And I watch Pac-12, but like they got this net rating, right? Well, it used to be RPI. That's how old I am. It's like, oh, it's the RPI. Now it's your net rating. What's the net rating? The NCAA just made it up. They made it up. They're like, we're just going to do our own thing. Thank you, RPI, for your years of service, but we're going to go ahead and do our thing. And so, but there's not a lot of consistency to it. Now, Steve Tan is going to join us in the third hour. Steve and I, we used to do this every single Monday after the selection show where we both were in agreement. These mediocre teams that were on the bubble have no room to complain. Zero, zilch, nada. You can take every team that got quote-unquote snubbed, and you can go back in the season and go, well, what about that game? What about that performance? What about that one? No, but this is why the NCAA tournament is so perfect. It's why it's perfect. 4-team college football playoff, not perfect. Not perfect, right? Because you had the Florida State situation this year. There were years past. I think it was when TCU got in, right? They lost their 4-team college football playoff. Not perfect. NCAA tournament. I dare anyone to come up with a complaint with the way that this format is set up, because the teams that did get quote unquote snubbed, they don't deserve to be there anyways. No team that has a legitimate chance to win the national title ever gets left out. Never happens. Also, after Sunday evening, it used to be Monday morning, but now it's social media. Everybody complains on Sunday evening. Once they tip the ball off in Dayton, you don't hear any more from the snubs anymore. You don't hear any. Florida State's going to scream about this college football playoff forever and ever and ever. We're not going to hear from St. John's anymore. And if you do, it's going to sound really silly.
Well, it would be Rick. But
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to hear from Seton Hall or any of these other teams that got kind of left out. And that's why this tournament is perfect.
But it's an every year thing, Justin. Like, I mean, again, this year you mentioned in our a couple of the teams that have been the bid stealers, obviously Oregon being one of them. And I remember a handful of years ago now when an Oregon State team had no business being a bid stealer. Mm-hmm. And, oh, boy, can I remember, Oregon State got in over so-and-so, over so-and-so. And then, like you said, it helped that Oregon State made a bit of a run that year and wasn't a one and done. But totally.
But this happens every year
bids,
for one day. But the thing is, none of those teams that got snubbed have any business. Like, it's not like you can sit there like Florida State in football and be like, we won all of our games, dude. In the ACC, dude. We'd be we're Florida State. Like, that doesn't happen. It's why this tournament is perfect. It's perfect at 64 teams. It's a 64-team tournament, by the way. Because, no offense to Colorado, and again, I know technically with the money, especially the money going to Corvallis and Pullman, right? That game tomorrow counts, but Colorado's not in yet. You're not in until you are playing in an actual seeded bracket slot. You're not in. And it's why I like the way that they have done that. You guys want to complain about the bubble? Fine. We'll give you 2 extra teams. You guys play it off. Play it off. But that's a play-in coming up in Dayton. That's not the first round. Remember a handful of years ago when they tried to sell that was the first round? It was a while ago. The NCAA was like, we can't just let Dayton become a play-in. That's the first round. And then I remember because I was in Portland watching actual first-round games. It was like the second and the third round. That's not what this is. It's a beautiful tournament. It is a beautiful bracket. Oregon makes a run. Dana Altman does it again. The magician in March. This is what Dana Altman does. I doubted him. He waited a long time this year. Usually the run comes a little bit mid-February. Waited a while. But again, this is Dumb and Dumber. March run. Totally redeem yourself. That's what Dana Altman did in Las Vegas. So we'll talk about the Oregon run and just kind of what March runs can do for a legacy and for a team. We got some NBA stuff coming up as well. But before we do get to all of that and get locked, and we are going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. I will be a little bit selfish. Not completely, but a little bit selfish. But before we get to all that, I need to tell you about Oregon's roofing, siding, windows, and bath experts. I may not be an expert when it comes to filling out my bracket, but you know what? DeBella is the experts for roofing, siding, windows, bath renovations, saving you money. And if you're going to be like me, and you might have a couple of brackets out, and you're not going to win, might need to save some money elsewhere. Well, how about solar shingles on your roof? You can potentially pay for your roof with savings to your energy bill and with federal or state incentives. DeBella's got all the details. Contact them for an easy, convenient, and free estimate that is scheduled on a time that works for you. 15,000 five-star reviews. That's right. You could be the next five-star reviews. And they've got award-winning customer service, accolades from Angie's List, Home Advisor. Plus, with all that, you're going to be thinking, well, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, Justin. How about 0 down, no payments till 2025? Just sweeten the pot a little bit. 0 down and no payments until 2025. Check out DeBella for a free, no-obligation appointment. They are the Oregon experts for roofing, windows, siding, and bath projects. DeBella. That's right. No scrubs. No scrubs get into the big dance. If you are a scrub, get out. Go to the NIT. Oh, wait. Teams aren't playing in the NIT either. Did you see that controversy yesterday?
The not invited tournament?
Well, people are getting invited to the not invited tournament, and they are not going. They are saying thanks, but no thanks. They are finally learning what a lot of these teams realized. And again, things to pay attention to. I'm not going to turn this into a whole thing. We are going to talk about Oregon and Dana Altman. But I am going to make another Justin Myers college football PSA. Pay attention to college basketball because that is potentially where college football is heading. I'm just saying, pay attention to it. Now, some of you might be like, that sounds great. It's March. Yeah. How was college basketball in January? How much did you watch? How much did you pay attention to? The beautiful thing about college football is it forces you to pay attention to everybody. College basketball, no. We even say it all the time. It's like, yeah, we'll pick it up in February, and we'll kind of check in. And one of the things that got lost yesterday was that the NCAA tournament bracket gets unveiled, right? Teams are in. Certain teams are on the bubble. Oregon, NC State, a handful of teams that popping bubbles left and right over the weekend with bid-stealing conference tournament wins. So some of these teams now don't get in. Well, that used to be, you got to go to the NIT. Yeah, it stinks, but you know what? It's something, right? It's something. It's a basketball tournament. There's sometimes you get a chance at a home game. By the way, you know what my favorite NIT story is? This has nothing to do with Oregon, though. I want to say it was the year after the Kentucky Wildcats won the national title. And I think Nerlens Noel was on this team. And the year after, they did not have a very good season, and they did not get in an invite to the NCAA tournament. So they're going to the NIT. And Brenden, you know this because you're a sports guy. NIT first-round games are hosted. So the higher seed team gets a home game, and a lot of teams are like, "Oh, that's great. We'll get a home game. We'll sell some pop. We got some popcorn left over, right? We'll sell some concessions. We'll sell some extra tickets." But Kentucky gets invite to the NIT. Guys, we got a problem. We booked Rupp Arena for a concert because we had no thought that we were ever going to be playing in the NIT ever. So Kentucky did not get a home game. They had to go play at Oral Roberts, where they would be upset in maybe the most memorable NIT game of all time. But point being, the NIT has always kind of been a thing. It's never the most fun thing if you are a power conference team, but it's something, right? It's like, hey, it's better to stick in the eye, and coaches love it because you get to continue to practice, you get to keep your guys together, and, well, I don't know if you noticed, teams are declining NIT bids. St. John's, who thought they were in, Pitt, Oklahoma, these teams that were on the bubble, but then didn't get, NIT comes along, it's like, oh, that stinks about the NCAA tournament committee. Yeah, we don't like them either. You want to come play in the NIT? And they're like, no. Teams are declining to the NIT. And so I bring this up because I say, watch what happens in college basketball, because it is always about 4 or 5 years ahead of college football. We saw Ben Simmons when his team made the NIT, remember? Remember when LSU made the NIT and Ben Simmons opted out because he was going to be the number 1 overall draft pick his freshman year at LSU? Ben Simmons opted out. And again, I got no problem players opting out, but I'm saying pay attention, because that we saw trickle down when all of a sudden football players are like, so I don't got to go play in the Meineke Car Care Bowl? Well, now we're seeing entire teams saying, no, thank you to the NIT. How long before? Now, there's a lot of money at stake, but Brenden, if you are like a big time Power 4 conference football team who doesn't make the 12-team playoff, Like, let's say USC this year, right? You are a power, traditional power. How long before we see teams go like, yeah, we're not going to the Holiday Bowl? We're not going to the Holiday Bowl. We're declining the invite Holiday Bowl. Thank you. We're already getting $75 million from the Big Ten just being in the Big Ten. We do not need your now conferences might not allow it because that's free money coming in, but we're gonna see this in college football. And it's not the worst thing ever. If we're going to a 12-team playoff, like the Holiday Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, like these are gonna go away. The Sun Bowl. They're going to go away. But just mark my word, pay attention. Multiple teams declining the NIT. All right. Now, back to the topic at hand, which is Dana Altman does it again. I feel very Harry and Lloyd driving in the wrong direction. I thought the Rocky Mountains would be a little more rockier. That John Denver's full of it, you know. Drove to Nebraska instead of to Aspen. And that's how I felt Oregon basketball was all season long. All season long, it felt like Oregon, they got a Hall of Fame coach. They've got state-of-the-art facilities, 5-star recruits, local interest, Jackson Shelstad. They finally got some shooters on this team. They got shooters, they got size. Okay, they got some injuries. But it felt like I'm watching Dumb and Dumber. They're just driving the wrong way. Like, supposed to be headed to Aspen. We're driving through Nebraska. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after beating UCLA by 2 points. And by the way, after the week before, getting a gift from Oregon State. Okay, because keep in mind, this Oregon run, Brenden's Beavs beat Utah that final week of the Pac-12 season. That win solidified Oregon as a 4 seed, which gave them the last first-round bye. Because I believe if Utah would have won and Oregon would have lost, that would have put Oregon into that first week. So they would have had to go on a really big run. So Oregon State gives Oregon a gift last week of the Pac-12 tournament. But Oregon still does not look good. More injuries continue to pile up. Everybody who's in the Oregon bubble has seen, there's a graphic out there of minutes lost due to injury for rotation players. Oregon's at the top of the list, and it's not even really close. But regardless, it just has felt like a team that is not simpatico with where Dana Altman wants them to be, and Altman has been complaining all year. It's like, we keep making the same mistakes. I used to do a dynamite Dana Altman. I can't do it anymore. But, like, we keep making the same mistakes, you know, the same things. It's frustrating. And then finally something kind of changed there towards the end, right around senior night. And Dana Altman after the game was like, you know, I do love these guys. And just kind of realized, like, we're going to need a run here. So they go to Vegas. And on Thursday, they beat UCLA, who is bad, by 2 points. Needing a UCLA miss at the end of the game because of some missed free throws, right? Because Oregon's not going to make it any easier. Still driving to Nebraska instead of driving to Aspen. We come in on Friday, Brendan's like, they might win the thing. And I'm like, Brenden, they're not winning. It's not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen. I've watched them play all. Are they shooting like 80% from 3 in the second half against Arizona? Because something is cooking down there in Vegas. And once they got that win over Arizona, they match up against Colorado. And I think and again, I don't want to sit here and pretend like the matchups are, but like, I've watched Oregon play against Washington State. It did not match up well. So the Ducks get I think a little bit of a break. They get Colorado in the finals. Tight game, down to the wire. Oregon pulls it off at the end. And just like in that famous scene in Dumb and Dumber, where here comes Lloyd Christmas, who traded the shag and wagon for the moped straight up Straight up. Get 70 miles to the gallon on this hog. Still got Aspen if you want. And us as Oregon fans to Dana Altman. Totally redeem yourself. That's how I felt this weekend. Because that's what is nuts about college basketball. You can have one of the most frustrating, injury-riddled, inconsistent, hey, are they good? I don't know if I've ever watched an entire college football season and wondered, is this team good? Like, you kind of know, right? That team's good. That team's inconsistent. They're mediocre. That team is bad. This whole year, I've been watching Oregon basketball, and I've asked my question, are they good? Like, I don't know. Injuries were a part of it. You know, like Shellstad kind of hit a little freshman wall, which happens. Inconsistencies. Dante went out, but they were winning shooting the ball, and then Dante comes back, and it's like, well, we got the big guy back, so now they run the offense through him, but he wasn't quite ready. And it's like, are they good? I don't know. All I do know is that they're frustrating to watch. But I think that's college basketball in general. It's just it is a frustrating watch. But man, 3 games in the desert. That's it. That's all. 3 games. Successful season. Forget, like, it's like the Great and Powerful Oz, right? Pay no attention to that regular season that you've watched all year long. Pay no attention to that. This is March, baby. It's a 3-game run. That's what is, again, that is the secret sauce of college basketball. I talk about the secret sauce all the time. Secret sauce of March Madness. What is it? I'll tell you what it is. Exactly. If you know anything about college basketball, and I think just sports, but mostly in college basketball, winning games on the road is incredibly tough. Incredibly tough. NFL stadiums are NFL stadiums, right? Some are tougher to play in than others, but for the most part, if you've ever been to an NFL game, yeah, at Lumen Field, it gets a little bit loud. And, you know, at Lambeau Field, it gets a little bit cold. And in Buffalo, it gets a little, but for the most part, if you've ever been to an NFL game is an NFL game. There are some home field advantages, but for the most part, an NFL game is an NFL game. College football and college basketball, road atmospheres are legit. Absolutely legit. Especially in college basketball, if you get a place that cares and you're on the road and you got a student section and you've got the officials are affected by it and everything. So it's like, we got to figure out, how do we win on the road? How do we win on the road? I got to toughen up this team on the road. Every coach talks about it. Then guess what? Season comes to an end. Are we playing road games? No. No, we will not be playing a road game the rest of the season. Okay, so we're going to play some home games. No. Turns out we're not. Turns out we're going to do an entire regular season. Like from October to the end of February. An entire regular season. And then we're just going to change the format. Everything changes. And we're going to play the most important games at a neutral site, bracket style, make a run, get in. Because I've been complaining and asking questions out loud as the Oregon homer that I am. What's the culture of Oregon basketball, right? Because it's not what it used to be. Now, again, I don't know what is anymore, right? But there used to be a culture of Oregon basketball, and part of what kind of went away was the special old barn that they played in, which was MacArthur Court. like big games felt. If you walked into MacArthur Court when they're playing UCLA or Stanford in the early 2000s, or when they were playing Arizona in those games when James Harden's coming up for Arizona State. You walked into MacArthur Court, you could feel this is a big game. I can feel it. There's energy in this building. There's also Diet Coke dripping from the third level because it was built in the 20s. That was the worst. Brenden, somebody above you in the third level spilled a soda. It's getting all. It might go all the way down to the locker rooms under the basketball floor. But it felt special. I've talked about this before. There was a smell when you walked into the place. There's like a familiar smell of like popcorn and 90-year-old radiators.
If you want that, you can still find it at Go Coliseum.
But you know what I mean? But then they built Matthew Knight, which they needed. They needed Matthew Knight. You could not compete, and because you would bring in recruits, right, to MacArthur Court, and they would look around and they'd be like, we play here? You ever been to MacArthur Court when it's empty? It is not impressive. But you pack it full of people, and so they needed a new arena. They built this new arena, and unfortunately, it's just not the same. It's a sterile environment. It's corporate. It is, video boards and pre-produced bits, and it's like. And then you got Dan Altman, who wins a lot, but has never been a salesman of the pro. So it was like staring down 3 NITs, even if they would have accepted the bid. I'm like, I've talked about it 2 weeks ago. I think we had Joel Gunderson on the show 2 weeks ago, and we're like, what's the culture of Oregon basketball right now? I think I have an epiphany over the weekend. Brenden, this is it. This is the culture of Oregon basketball. You can't always count on a run in March. I think with Dana Altman, not every year, but most years is like, all right, waited a little bit longer this year. But it is a fascinating thing that a coach, and we saw this 3 years ago now, where a coach can completely turn around his entire reputation with one run in a conference tournament and then in the NCAA tournament. Wayne Tinkle's still living off of it. He's like, they made the Elite Eight, beat Cade Cunningham, magical run for the Beavs 3 years ago. He's still
beat Keon Johnson too.
Beat Keon Johnson.
Come on now,
put some respect on Keon. The Tennessee,
yeah, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Him and Jaden Springer, a couple dudes
beat
that
Sister
hung
Jean
around the NBA for a minute.
Beat Sister Jean.
Her too.
Yeah, put some respect on Sister Jean's name.
Religiousness that was working against them. Yeah,
but Wayne Tinkle's still living off that extension.
Beaver fans are still grumpy old man, fist in the air in the cloud. But yeah, you're right. He's still living off it.
But it's just a fascinating thing that all of a sudden Oregon looked like they did not look good on Thursday. That's why I had no faith. They played a bad UCLA team down to their level. And I'm like, they're not beating Arizona. They're not beating Arizona's playing for a 1 seed. And then Dante gets hurt. No. Oregon figured it out. Dana Altman put the puzzle together. And can I tell you one of my other things I love about this time of year? I'm on a group chat with with friends who are Oregon fans. All year, Brenden, we've been complaining about this Oregon basketball team. Things I cannot repeat on this air. Brackets come out yesterday. I like our matchups. We were ready to fire this guy 2 weeks ago. I was like, South Carolina's a good matchup. I like that bracket. Sweet 16 might be here. It's the best. This is Harry and Lloyd. Totally redeemed yourself. This is Michael Scott. I'm ready to be heard again. Let's do it. All right. Coming up, we got some NBA news and notes. Jason Tatum had something interesting to say over the weekend that I was a big fan of. The Blazers, injury still bugging this team. It's going to bug them all season long. Like Fenter said last week, the injury list is about to get very, very prominent down this stretch run. So the Blazers took a loss in New Orleans, but they've got the Chicago Bulls tonight. But other news and notes Did you see that running left-handed hook shot from Kyrie Irving last night? I'm not the biggest Kyrie fan, but that was impressive. Roundball Rock next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up later on in the big show, we will get back into the brackets. Oregon making another run in March. So the Ducks get to go dancing. They'll be facing off against South Carolina Thursday, 1 o'clock tip time. Once again, how awesome is living on the West Coast? I mean, honestly, how awesome is living on the West Coast? Because we get 9 a.m. basketball coming up on Thursday. But Oregon will be tipping off at 1 o'clock from Pittsburgh. They'll be taking on South Carolina. They're an 11 seed as they win the Pac-12 tournament down in Vegas. Now, forever Pac-12 basketball champions, by the way. Forever Pac-12 basketball champions, because there's no more. Won the last one, cut the nets down, savor it. So we'll dive back into that. We will be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback carousel that is going on, as Kenny Pickett is now a Philadelphia Eagle and Justin Fields is Russell Wilson's backup? Is that a thing? Is this an actual real competition now? Because I said last week that Russell Wilson's not coming in to be the backup. Well, now Justin Fields is there instead of Kenny Pickett. Does that change things a little bit? This is very unsteelery offseason moves. So we are definitely going to dive into that as well. And the Blazers back in action tonight. The Blazers will be taking on the Chicago Bulls. But more news and notes from the NBA over the weekend. Let's get to Round Ball Rock. All right, do we have the Jason Tatum clip? All right, this was great. Now, Jason Tatum, who I think should be in the MVP discussion. Maybe, why do you think he's not? Are the Celtics too good? Is he not, statistically flashy enough?
Yeah, he's not super flashy.
I think that's it. But I'll tell you what, I'd ride with that guy any day. You redraft the league. This has always been my MVP default. Brenden, you redraft the league right now. I think Jokic goes number 1. Giannis might go to Jason Tatum. Is he in the top 5? If you redraft the league? Get Jason Tatum. I'd take him. I want that dude on my team.
Good question. I have to think about it.
But I like him even more after what he said over the weekend, talking about load management. We need players. We need players to step up and have this kind of attitude. Here's Jason Tatum from over the weekend talking about load management.
I've been here 7 years. They understand kind of what they're dealing with. I don't like to sit out. And, I understand if I was injured or whatever. But I said it before, I just love to play the game, especially on the road. So many fans out there with Tatum 0 jerseys or came to see me play. So I kind of take pride in making sure I'm available as much as I can.
There's a problem in the NBA, not just from a team standpoint, but from a player standpoint, of taking the fans for granted. I think you want to ask me, Justin, what's NBA's biggest problem? They take the fans for granted, assuming that the fans are always going to be there, where you cannot count on night to night if you attend a game, if a certain player is going to be available. You can't count season to season that a team is going to attempt to put their best foot forward with tanking. You can't count on a team, heck, even watching them on TV, if you're TNT, because and the NBA under Adam Silver's watch has been, you're not going anywhere. Taking fans for granted is a massive problem, I believe, in the NBA. And I think it's showing in the TV ratings. So it's good to see a player like Jason Tatum say what I think a lot of sports fans want to hear, which is dude, it's expensive to go to games. It was when I was a kid, and I lived a long ways away, but it was a treat to be able to go to NBA. I remember my first NBA basketball game, ironically enough, wasn't a Blazer game. I was visiting my mom's side of the family in Denver, Nuggets and Warriors. Got to see Mutombo play. Could only imagine, go to your first NBA game, and the Nuggets were not very good, but, they had that dude, Mutombo, and it's yeah, Mutombo's not playing tonight. So good for Jason Tatum, and I wonder if there are going to be more. And I've heard, Wemby's like hinted at this, where it's like I don't want to be out. I want to play. I don't want to be held out. Wemby's hinted at it. Now Jason Tatum has hinted at it. We need more players in the NBA who can understand that there is an actual financial benefit. And I understand you got a gajillion dollars and you're like, but there is a financial benefit to playing more often than not and building up your brand and being able to be counted on night in and night out, because there's a lot of players that you can't. So I hope this becomes a trend. It won't, because team owners are greedy and everybody's afraid of what's going on with Memphis with an injury derails your season, so everybody's got to be super careful. But I've always been a Jason Tatum fan. A little more of a Jason Tatum fan. I'm not going to buy a jersey, but big fan. I'm also a big fan of hour number 2 because we got make or miss. We got more basketball stuff to talk about. The brackets are out. 12 over 5, bro. Those guys are coming out of the woodworks at the office. Be aware. Bracket bros on the way. Talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Oregon Ducks are dancing. That's right. They have won the Pac-12 tournament in Vegas with a win over Colorado on Saturday night. They are an 11 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they will face 6 seed South Carolina Thursday in Pittsburgh, PA. 1 o'clock tip time. Speaking of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Steelers made some moves over the weekend, trading away Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles, leaving just Russell Wilson in the quarterback room for only a day because Justin Fields was then traded for a 6th-round pick from Chicago. So Kenny Pickett out, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oregon State women are a 3 seed in their NCAA tournament. They will be hosting Eastern Washington on Friday at Gill Coliseum. And the Blazers return to action. They'll be taking on the Chicago Bulls tonight. Steve Tannen, friend of the program from 95.3 The Score in Eugene, joins us in Hour 3, but Hour 2 starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings. Happy Monday, everybody. Hopefully you had a fantastic, beautiful weather weekend. The nice weather's going to stick around for a bit. But the nice weather combined with brackets, the smell of brackets in the air. I love it. It's also toner, but I don't know if now that apps are in our lives, I don't know if the kids will ever understand about what a fresh bracket. You know, that was the other thing. I have always been a one bracket guy. Now, I would fill out said bracket the exact same way and turn that bracket in multiple times, but I've always been a one bracket guy because I don't have the attention span. I don't have the multitasking ability to be able to. And I figured, you know what? I'm just going to go all in with one. But the bracket bros are going to be out and about. I like now that it's all digital though, I don't know if it's the same, but Brenden, you know the bracket bros at the office, right? They're already lurking today because there are somebody in the office who's like their job is it's probably the same guy that runs the fantasy football league, and it's probably the same guy that runs the bowl challenge. Remember the bowl challenge? It's that same guy, and he's lurking. He is going to distract you. He is like they talk about how Thursday and Friday. I don't know what will you look up, Brenden? You're a fast Googler. Will you look up what the estimated revenue lost? Now, I don't know how they figure this out. I don't know how they quantify it, but they do it every single year. With the revenue lost of people not actually working, but people watching NCAA tournament games on Thursday or Friday. I think Forbes put out something. There's millions and millions of dollars of lost revenue with the first and second round.
1.7 billion in lost productivity, which again for our capitalistic society is a drop in the bucket. So I say skip work and watch March Madness.
Boom,
March Madness.
Yeah, stick it to the man. I'm with you, but it's also. Can I tell you, and you know this, one of the great things about this job is whether we are on the air or not, which we are going to be off right as the games get going, but like it's our job to watch the games. Like we do not have any lost productivity from watching games. It is, in fact, our job to watch the games. But they always say like 1.3 billion. Is that what the number was?
1.4.
I don't want to short that $100 million. $1.4 billion going on in lost productivity. But you know what they don't factor in? How much lost productivity happens today? Because here's what's going to happen. Now, I know that a lot more people are working from home, but if you are working in an office, here's what's going to, today you're going to walk in and bracket guy he's going to be looming. He's going to have a hand, like he took over the copy machine He has printed out the brackets. He has got all of the rules. It's like, hey, you want to get on the tournament pool? I haven't got the email yet, but I'm sure one's coming. Hey, you want to get now? Everything they just do online now, which I feel is a little bit lazy, but like, hey, who do you got as your 12 over 5? Who's your 12 over 5? Who's your Cinder? What's one seed's going to get knocked off. Who do you think? Is it Purdue? Do you think you can trust Purdue? Lost to Fairleigh Dickinson last year. Think Purdue can make the Final Four? Oh, bracket guy is he's looming large. Hey, you want to get on the bracket pool? And then, in a week, hey, you want to get, I know you lost 2 of your Final Four teams there in the first weekend. I got a Sweet 16 pool. We're doubling down if you want to get on that. So, you said last week, Brenden, you're going to fill out about 10 brackets. About 10. You got 10 different champions?
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, what is your process? Because I'll tell you, this shouldn't surprise you. My process, gut. I just go with my gut.
Everyone's different.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering what you're like. Do you dive into the Ken Pomeroy numbers? Do you dive into net defense, net offense? Everybody on my TikTok is like, oh, here's the formula to figure it out. And I'm like, I just go with my gut.
I mean, there's maybe one that's that way. There's also, opportunities to autofill. So I'll usually take a celebrity bracket. I'll usually take the option where it's you just take every game chalk. There's the option where you just flip a coin at the winner of every game. ESPN does give you quite a few number of options to build brackets and build brackets quickly. So
for years and years and years, I did I go with my gut and just kind of feel it out. 1 year, I said what you said there. Chalk. I'm going chalk. I'm going to go by Vegas. Because you can go and look up what this, because I'm Vegas, they don't get stuff wrong very often. Vegas doesn't care who's 11 seed or a 13 seed, right? Look at the point spread. So I'm going by point spreads. I'm going by Vegas, and I'm going chalk. And I put together the chalkiest of chalk brackets ever. You know what happened, Brenden? Virginia lost to Maryland, Baltimore County. The first year I don't go with my gut. I'm I am going to put together, I'm trusting the numbers. I'm going to let Vegas, who's the odds on? Oh, Vegas has got Virginia as the odds on favor to win. I'm starting there, and I filled it out backwards. Have you done that too, where you fill it out backwards? You're who's your champion and who's your Final Four?
And for what it's worth, just because the balance of power is so much more top-heavy, my best success that I've ever had was filling out women's brackets, because usually you don't have 12s over 5s very often. To my knowledge, I don't even think there's ever been anything less than a 3 over 13.
All right.
But yeah, no, for sure.
Okay, can I throw out, it's not a conspiracy, it's almost an anti-conspiracy theory. What's the women's selection committee doing? Putting an Elite Eight, putting LSU and Iowa in the same bracket? Are they trying? Okay.
This is also the same NCAA.
Was that on purpose, do you think, so that we are guaranteed an Iowa-LSU matchup? Because I would be why wouldn't you just put them at least to where they match up in the Final Four? Are they maybe worried that LSU won't get there? Or that Iowa won't get there, so that maybe at least it'll be an Elite Eight matchup, and that will be, because that's what everybody wants to see. I'm just going to say it right now. Majority of people, women's NCAA tournament, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. We want to see it. Timely reference, kids, Google it. But I'm why wouldn't you put that? Because I don't believe these committees are it's numbers, and if they happen to no. There are too many convenient matchups.
Well, there's no
to
logic
where you're
to it.
all right, somebody did something there.
I mean, you tell me how it makes sense that there's only 2 hosts other than the Final Four, they have compared to the men, which have their Sweet 16 and Elite 8 matchups all across the country, the women's side, they consolidate everything. So there are 1 or 2 options. You're either in one of the 32 teams that go to Albany, New York, or one of the 32 teams that play here at Moda Center.
Boom.
How in the world you don't put Oregon State in the Portland side of the bracket?
As a 3 seed?
Yeah, either they're in Albany.
So if they win the first 2 games,
they go to Albany.
They go to Albany, New York.
Instead of Moda, which is the biggest loss of revenue
But
in this.
tell them. Tell the people.
I mean, it's incredibly stupid.
You actually know about this. I don't want to sit here and get on my soapbox because I don't know any about anything about this.
Yeah, that was my only hot take. Is
You just said that, and for the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, like there will be women's basketball games in 2 weeks at Moda Center, and even if the Beavers are there, yeah, they're going to be in Albany, New York, because that makes sense. So
that is really dumb.
NCAA,
That
man.
is really, really
Right?
dumb. This is what drives me nuts about the NCAA, Brenden, because I try to defend them. I try. I try to be like, oh, no, they're not incompetent. They might be incompetent.
And for what it's worth, and
that seems really, really stupid.
On top of it all, they even put our own Portland Pilots in Albany when they won the WCC women's basketball.
Yeah, but that was like a bracket stealing thing, wasn't it?
It was, but still be like,
they're like a 4 seed in the West Coast Conference tournament.
Yeah, and it's like, but still though, you couldn't be like, yeah, they're probably not going to win, but let's throw them a bone and put them on the Portland side. No, I'm like, yeah. So that's kind of the conspiracy I have there.
So I'm just because to me, I do not believe that these committees put these matchups together on a whim. See me emphasize the H? On a whim. I believe that they do some things on purpose, right? There are just too many coincidences. Now, maybe it's just our dumb sports brain who creates things out of nothing, but there are too many. You're telling me that Texas A&M playing Nebraska was not a coincidence in the first round? Because I don't know if you just know this, but Trev Alberts, who was the AD at Nebraska, who is Nebraska's golden boy, Texas A&M just stole him for a lot of money. I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, again, maybe I got Oregon facing off against South Carolina. Now, I think Oregon has an 11 seed. Not all 11 seeds are created equal, and I think it's 1.5 is the spread right now. Because Oregon's got the talent of a top 5 seed. They just haven't played very well in injuries. If Oregon beats South Carolina, that's a big if, but it's only a 1.5 game. Looming matchup against Creighton, Dana Altman's former team.
That would be fun. But yeah,
do you
totally
think that's
right.
an accident? Like,
No.
do you think it's an accident? Like and so that's what I'm wondering. I don't believe that any of these things happen on a whim. On the women's side, do you think it was set up to where they're like, look, we have got to have Caitlin Clark and Iowa against LSU. We have to have that game. Put them in the same bracket.
So I was
because it does seem like you won it
told-
on the biggest stage, but maybe I guess because I know LSU's not as good as they were last year.
Like this is
even though they got all the transfers.
Yeah, this is specifically for LSU and Iowa. You're totally spot on. I was told as far as
You got sources?
Well, just when you get into the nitty gritty of the rule book and what they decide to be like, well, you see this rule in subsection E of part 3 of chapter 12 that. They're like, well, we can't put Oregon State in Portland because Stanford's already in Portland. And, they've played 3 times in the regular season. They can't play in the Sweet Sweet 16. That wouldn't be right. So, the whole thing of it's silly, Justin, because it's like, no disrespect to any other of the women's teams that are in the Portland regional on both sides.
Do they feel like giving maybe a 3 seed, almost a home game would be almost too much of an advantage to the 1 or the 2 seeds?
Perhaps, right? But that's it. It's like you're telling me,
But this is
the
an
revenue
entertainment
lost.
venture.
Yeah, the revenue lost, I think, is just
so much money out the window.
The Beaver, this, Justin. Oregon State fans care about their women's basketball. I would have been willing to bet they would have gone to Moda and done quite well.
And in a market here in Portland where they clearly, we've seen it. We've seen the games.
So that's silly to me, but hey, NCAA, right?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Why would you not put LSU and Iowa at least in 2 separate? But I guess maybe if you don't trust that LSU is going to make the Final Four,
they still should.
Because if they play each other in the Elite Eight, that's going to be must-see TV.
Oh, agreed.
It is. It's going to be
totally
must-see TV. All right, coming up, we've got Make or Miss on the way. After Make or Miss, you got to indulge me a little bit. But this Steeler quarterback thing is baffling. It is absolutely baffling to me. So we'll dive into that as well. Steve Tannen joining us in the 3rd hour. But before we get to all of that, once again, I want to tell you about DeBella. Look, they don't mess around with their bracket. The brackets probably that they use to fasten roofs. I don't know. I'm not a construction guy. But they are roofing, siding, windows, and bath experts at DeBella. And you've probably seen their work. Better Homes and Garden. Yeah, that's a 1 seed. HGTV. It's another 1 seed right there. And DeBella, handle your home improvement project better than anyone else. Is that just me telling you? No. Is that just DeBella telling you? No. Listen to their customers. Over 15,000 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. That's right. They don't let you make 6-star reviews. If they did, they would have as many. But 15,000 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. So, been featured in Better Homes and Garden HGTV, like I told you. 5-star reviews all over the place. Customer service accolades from Angie's List and Home Advisor. All that plus an amazing finance opportunity. 0 down, no payments till 2025 on approved credit. Look, if you want to be serious about saving some money in 2024 and beyond, update your roof with solar shingles. Update your house with energy-efficient windows and energy-efficient bath upgrades, and you can save money on your energy bills. Plus, with solar shingles, you might actually be able to pay for that roof with federal or state incentives. DeBella has all the details, so contact them for a free, no-obligation appointment. DeBella, your roofing, windows, siding, and bath experts. All right, 1 hour from now, friend of the program, my old partner in crime from down in Eugene, Steve Tannen's going to be joining the show. Actually, quite appropriate. Brenden, you didn't even know this when you booked Steve, but a thumbs up for timing.
They do call me the best producer this side of the West, but you know.
Do they?
That's what they call me, man.
But I will say, appropriate because maybe the best promotion that I ever did in radio, up until I worked here, obviously, because we do great promotions here. But we in Eugene each and every year had the 95.3 The Score Bracket Challenge. And the Bracket Challenge was free to enter, and you filled out a bracket. And the winning bracket received Oregon basketball season tickets for the next year. And boy, and I think you've been in radio enough to where there are times when everything should work and it just doesn't. It's a real eye-opening experience where you're like, hey, we're going to go to this place at this time. Come meet me. Come hang out. And you go, and there's like 2 people there. Like, and then sometimes it worked, but like, sometimes it just doesn't work. Especially like in morning radio, because obviously we're here to work with people's, but Steve and I would do the bracket challenge each and every year. And it was like, you'd have thought we were rock stars. Because we would, like, on Monday at the bar, like, you had to use our official bracket. You had to be present to fill it out. It had to be at the bar. And, yeah, we ran that bad boy. I don't know if he still does it. He probably still does. But we ran that bad boy for 10 years or so. So we got the bracket challenge duo of myself and Steve Tannen continuing. Plus, we're going to talk about Oregon's magical run down in Vegas. Dana Altman showing more emotion. Did you see Dana Altman after dark? You seen that clip floating around of Dana Altman on the desk of the Pac-12 network going like, hey, Don, they didn't pick us. You didn't pick us. You didn't pick. Oh, boy. Dana was letting loose at the end. Had to feel good. The confetti in his hair and the cutting the net down and going like, hey, wait, you didn't pick us to win. You didn't. By the way, Dana, I didn't pick you to win. Brenden did. Brenden Slaughter did, but I didn't because I watched you play. Brenden, you had the distinct privilege of not watching Oregon play most of the year.
You know, it was the
probably
only,
helps. It probably helped.
As far as I know, and again, it was actually a moment, folks, and it prepared me well for the fall. So quick little aside before we open up Maker Man.
Yeah.
So Sunday was one of, if not in my recollection, the first I in the last few years, as you know, I've gotten more into being a professional journalist. I'm more apathetic towards Oregon rather than rooting for them to lose as I grew up. Justin, this is the first time in recent memory I can remember rooting for Oregon, and it actually felt kind of weird to root for Oregon. And
it always feels weird.
I'm absolutely thrilled because, as you know, it's preparing me for when. Please hold. For preparing me for this fall on October 5th when the Michigan State Spartans come to Autzen Stadium, and you will see a Duck fan like you've never seen before that game.
All right, well, I'll be there.
Yes.
I'll be in my seats.
I'm jealous. Like, if it wasn't a million, I might have to go to that game.
So, all that being said, Steve Tannen's going to be joining us in now less than an hour. But right now, it's time for Make or Miss.
All right, we're going to be starting out Make or Miss on a real personal note today. And Justin, I think he was a little preoccupied, but he's going to have to explain himself. Justin did not care about my Girl Scout cookie hot take.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't make... Not that I didn't care.
I think you were preoccupied at your concert.
was very preoccupied.
But I said that, and I was like, Justin is going to tweet back at me. This is going to be fun. And nothing.
All right, when did you send that out?
What?
Friday?
Saturday.
Saturday?
I think you were at the concert. In all fairness,
no.
but
So here,
Let me confirm that.
You said make this a bit of a personal segment. Here's what my Saturday looked like because, as I mentioned, with the nice weather that came into our world on Saturday, I had a project that we were redoing part of our retaining wall there in my house, and let me tell you. Have you ever dug a hole or dug a bunch of dirt? It's always more than you think. All right? It's always more than you think. So I was moving dirt around most of Saturday. Then as soon as I was done moving dirt around, I was drinking on 10 Barrels Rooftop, pre-gaming for a concert, and then I was also following along to basketball. So, yeah, I apologize. But you know my stance on shortbread cookies. They are – I don't know why they're there. I don't know why they make them other than the Brendens of the world buy them.
What was fascinating was when I bought –
But have you ever dug a hole and you go like, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be? Like, I looked at it and I know, like, I got a strong back and I got a good shovel. And I'm like, this could be way harder than I thought.
So I went to Sherwood Safeway and saw the nice Girl Scouts selling the cookies, and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely gonna hit that up on the way back. And my brother had asked me to grab him a box as well, and so
What'd you get him?
He wanted Samoas.
Boom.
Now here's the awesome
Good
thing
palate.
to go against your point, Justin. What I would assume was this young girl's dad. After I said, yeah, I'll take some of the shortbreads, he goes, oh, shortbread's making a comeback today. So, you can say I live in my own
I'm not in the
world.
trenches there. I don't know. I don't know what the trends are looking like.
Again, it will never be. I'm not even sitting here saying that it will ever be more popular than Thin Mints.
Well, no.
But I'm just saying, man. Like I said, I threw out a perfect tweet and a perfect GIF. Come at me, bro.
It was good. I didn't see it for. Okay, so here's the thing. It's why I am off of the For You on Twitter. I'm off of it. I'm only on following. That is it. And I feel like if 2 hours or so pass to then reply, I don't know, something about that doesn't feel right. Now, maybe that's just my thing. Maybe I need to get over it because I got burned a couple of times where the For You page pops up and I'm like, oh, I got a timely and it's like, yeah, that was 14 hours ago, dude. What are you doing? So I'm off the For You page. I can't do it. Only on the following. And yeah, I was preoccupied on Saturday I was digging a hole and then I was tired of digging a hole and I was like, it's sunny. I need to get to a rooftop and I need a cold drink. And then I was preparing to watch Oregon basketball and I was at Moda Center monitoring Oregon basketball while Dustin Lynch is playing, opening up for Blake Shelton. So I apologize. I did see your tweet, and in my brain I had a response, but
This was a totally tongue-in-cheek thing, but it was one of those things where I was like, I had been texting you about Oregon, right? So I was at almost simultaneously. So I was like,
yeah.
Just for all the thoughts we had, I'm like, oh, and by the way, Justin, one sleeve, almost already gone.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about the Girl Scout cookies. This is where
they get you.
Is that they could make it in a resealable pouch. They could do that. The technology exists. I see it all the time. But they don't because they know once you pop open that sleeve, you're just going to hammer them all. And then once you hammer them all, well, you need some more. So, yeah, they do it on purpose.
Yeah, too many. And, dude, it's like you can't just have one, right? You have one and you're just like, oh.
Well, they also make them that size on purpose to where you don't have one. Like, if you have 3 or 4 but once you've had 4, well, you just keep going, All right, what's next?
Yeah, on to the next. This is gonna be fun. A fun rabbit hole. If teams are declining the NIT, why does the CBI still exist? Call it the Craig Robinson tournament. The Dana Altman tournament for 1 year?
Well, Dana Altman won it and then said, I never want to play in this ever again. And
Craig really loved it,
and did not. Oregon State won it in back-to-back years. So there's 3 CBI champions. I mean, here's the thing.
The Cougs won it one year too with Ken Bone when he was their coach.
But the
yeah.
CBI, it was there. I think it was essentially created because you would get these teams like Indiana State, right? Indiana State this year, I think that's Missouri Valley. They won the Missouri Valley, lost in the semifinals, didn't make it in. They were on the bubble, didn't make it in. And there's always a handful of teams in like the Summit and the Sun Belt and the Patriot League where you're like 29-2 or something dumb like that, lose in the semifinals because your best player gets in foul trouble, and all of a sudden it's over. Like that was why the CBI was created, so that those teams that won all those would still have a chance to play some postseason basketball. But the fact of the matter is, the transfer portal is becoming such a pariah that these players, like if you're at all having a decent season in a smaller conference, you don't care about playing in the CBI. You care about getting in the transfer portal and maybe potentially going to a power school, because that's what it's going to be. Like all the Patriot League, the Summit League, the West Coast Conference is not Gonzaga, right? All these conferences are going to become feeder programs to the big schools. And so if you're a coach, it's like, I am far more focused on keeping my players on my team than worrying about the NIT or the CBI, which is what's going on. And it's only a matter of time before the NIT goes away, right? Unless they change the transfer rules. It's only like, how long's the NIT been in our lifetime? It's over 100 years old, right?
It's longer than the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It might be
I'll
over
pull it
100 years old.
It is 1938.
Okay, not quite 100.
Almost.
But it's been around since 1938. Oh, I should have known that because Oregon won the first NCAA tournament in 1939.
You're right. Yep. Bingo.
So
it precedes it by a year.
By a year, but it's still, that's
right.
the claim. It's like Hydrox and Oreos. Like, oh, Hydrox were first. Yeah, but Oreos are the best. But the NIT has been a college basketball institution for years and years and years. And it's going to go away.
Yeah.
Because if you are a bubble team, you got to get out and you got to get in the transfer portal, because that's the way you make your team better instantly. You used to be able to just play in the NIT and continue to recruit high school players. That's not the case anymore. Now you have got to get out and you got to start rating.
Yeah.
And start getting transfers to come in. And that's what's going to end why would you, if you are Rick Pitino in St. John's, right? Half your roster is going to be gone. Why play in this NIT? You know what I mean? Why play? And I know Tom Crean, like the former Indiana coach, he went off on ESPN yesterday. But, like, there is no reason for Pitt or for St. John's or for Oklahoma or any of these big schools to be playing in the NIT. Because it's far more profitable to spend that time revamping your roster through the transfer portal and make a run at the tournament next year.
So just for perspective, I always think this is still fun to look at. So, Justin, it still costs $27,000 to buy yourself into the CBI, right? So you can go in with a losing record and buy yourself in.
You buy yourself in. Got a
if
check,
you want
yeah.
to. Oregon State did that twice, just for the record.
Did they lose money?
Yeah.
Winning it?
Well,
because they had didn't they lose money because they had to put on the games and not enough people showed up and bought tickets? Which I don't blame them. That's not an accusation.
Yeah.
That's a reality. I thought they lost money.
I was a little young in 2009 to remember that year. I just remember like the year that it was Craig's final game. They had like 500 people in the stands and lost to Radford. But
they had more people running concessions and in the what's the color of their windbreakers?
Red.
And the red windbreakers.
Oh, yeah.
They had more red windbreaker and concession stand workers than actual fans in the stands.
But, like, the NIT is one thing, Justin, but, like, the fact of the matter is, like, I'm sorry, Quinnipiac, Seattle U, San Diego, not San Diego State, UC San Diego, Presbyterian, Bethune-Cookman, even though they're coached by Reggie Theus, which is kind of cool. Is this like it just seems so silly to be like, if you can't even be one of the best 68 teams, then you can't even be one of the best 32 after that.
Mm-hmm.
We still need another. Oh,
but like I
this
said,
is the parents' participation trophy, Justin. It is. Oh, Johnny. Well, your team. You guys were.
Hold on. But like I said, it's changed as what its purpose was. You're right. It ultimately became that, but its whole purpose was to be a place. Because could you imagine if you were, I don't know, it's a random Atlantic or random Patriot League team, right? You're George Mason, and you win like 28 games. You're like 28-4, and your best player gets in foul trouble in the semifinals of the Patriot League tournament, and you lose. So you get a bid stolen. You're not a tournament team, and you're just like, our season's over. And the NIT is not going to bring you in because the NIT was always there for the bubble teams, like the big conference bubble teams. That's why the CBI was created. But now that the NIT is losing those bubble teams, the smaller conference teams are going to be going up into the NIT. Yeah, CBI is going to be out of our world. But that was why it was created, is you would have these. I always felt bad for those teams, right? It's like, could you imagine you win like 27 games, win the regular season by like 3 games, and then just have a hiccup in the conference tournament? Arizona still gets to go after they lost to Oregon, right? They still get to go. There's a bunch of teams that don't. Like Indiana State, they're not going. All right, do we got one more?
Let's see. Let's go with, I do like this one. Justin Fields will overtake Russell Wilson as the starter by week 6.
Week 6. All right, I'm not going to duck this. We're going to talk about this a little bit more coming up in a bit, but I'm going to give you my 90-second response. I'm going to say that's a miss. I don't know why, and I cannot quantify it with statistics or strategy or anything. I believe Russell Wilson has a bounce back year this year. And because I think you look at the way he played last year, but being in a place where I think Mike Tomlin wants him to succeed, where I don't know if Sean Payton did, I think Russell has a bounce back year. I do think the Steelers will have some packages for Justin Fields, but I think Russ is going to be the starter, and I think Justin Fields sits there as a backup. I don't think he overtakes, unless there's an injury, but Russ has never been injured except for once. But I don't see an actual real quarterback controversy. I could be very, very wrong. But I think Russ actually takes over as the starter, as a veteran, and I think he has a bounce back year. And I think the Steelers win the Super Bowl. All right, I took it too far, didn't I? All right, we have got one more segment here in hour number 2. We are going to talk about this, though, like very weird situation brewing in Pittsburgh and in Chicago. And like Kenny Pickett just got bounced out of Pittsburgh after 2 years, a first-round draft pick. Justin Fields just got bounced out of Chicago after 2 years as a first-round draft, or 3 years, as a first-round draft pick. Boy, the quarterback timeline is getting shorter and shorter. We discuss next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, wrapping up hour number 2. We'll get to Steve Tannen coming up in hour number 3. So more basketball talk as Oregon is dancing. They pulled it off. They made a run. Dana Altman. That's putting together Rubik's Cube because it looked like that's injuries and some inconsistencies and all that. Just make a run in March. And all of a sudden, the Ducks are off and running, and they're going to be facing South Carolina. Tickets punched to the big dance. And the Pac-12 getting 4 teams into the big dance. Looked like a 2-bid conference all season. Well, not all season long, but for a good chunk of the season. But they end up getting 4 teams in. So we'll talk to Steve coming up in less than an hour. And RG3 had some interesting comments about Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, the number 1 overall pick, because now it is inevitable that Caleb Williams is going number 1. We knew for a good chunk of time that he was, but now it is inevitable because since we were last on the air on Friday morning, Russell Wilson was a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It wasn't official, but he actually signed the contract. So Russell Wilson was the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then, Friday mid-morning, I don't even think it was noon yet, mid-morning, Steelers trade Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles. So Kenny Pickett is now Jalen Hurts' backup there with the Philadelphia Eagles. Essentially, now it sounded like, not that it was ever a mutual parting of the ways, but I think it was like Kenny Pickett's like, you guys don't want me here, do you? And the Steelers were like, not really, Kenny. And so I was like, all right, Philadelphia, you stay in the state of Pennsylvania. You're a Jersey guy. Does that work? Traded Kenny Pickett. And obviously they knew that this Justin Fields thing was coming down the pike because just a day later, the Chicago Bears trade Justin Fields to the Steelers for a 6th-round pick, I think. There's some other things in there, but essentially Justin Fields was traded for a 6th-round pick. And it is not an apples-to-apples comparison. I think that is being disingenuous for people saying, like, Justin Fields is worth a 6th-round pick. It's like, no. If the Bears had the number 4 pick in the draft this year, if they didn't trade their number 1 pick last year to Carolina, or if Carolina won one more game, this is all a moo point, Cal's opinion. It's a Friends reference. I know it means moot. You ever do like a movie reference and people think you're like an idiot? Because there's that movie, there's a line in Animal House where it's like, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? And like you dropped that. It's like, it was the Japanese. It's like, yeah, it's a movie reference, dude. So I always reference a moo point because that's what Joey and Friends said. Back to football. But yeah, if the Bears had the number 4 pick in the draft, they're not getting Caleb Williams. They're not getting Drake May. And I don't know if they're giving up on Justin Fields to take a chance on Jaden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy. I don't think they would have done that. So this was kind of an odd lining up of the stars where you actually got the number 1 pick. You waited maybe a bit too long. And now Justin Fields, your reserve is a 6th-round pick, but nobody's going to care about that if Caleb Williams pops, right? Caleb Williams hits, nobody cares.
But as we discussed this morning, Justin, what if Caleb Williams is Sam Bradford?
What if Caleb Williams is a bust? Which we're going to talk about coming up in the 8 o'clock hour after I play you some of RG3's comments. So right now, the Steelers now have Russell Wilson on a 1-year deal for $1.2 million. They also have Justin Fields, who has 1 year left on his deal, plus, I believe, a team option. So essentially, you've gotten 2 very polarizing quarterbacks, but both on 1-year deals. And so I was trying to figure out, and I'm still trying to figure out, what are the Steelers thinking here? Like, what is the thought process? Clearly, they have no hope that Kenny Pickett is the future of the organization, right? And probably Kenny Pickett was like, I don't want to be the backup and sit for another year. So they left. So he left. If Russell Wilson comes out and plays at a Pro Bowl level, which is a possibility, if he plays at a Pro Bowl level, he's now a free agent with a resurrected career, and I'm sure somebody and some team out there with an awful lot of cap space, more than just $1.2 million, is going to say, all right, Russ, I got a 3-year deal for you. And Russ leaves. So do you have Justin Fields sitting there waiting in the wings? Do you bring in Justin Fields as an actual legitimate backup option if Russ doesn't hit? But you bring in the possibility of quarterback controversy, which the worst thing that could happen is having the fans in the stands. That's the second worst thing that could happen. Let me preface it. The second worst thing that could happen is having fans in the stands believing that you would be better off if the backup played more. The worst thing that could happen is actually having the players on the team that believe that the backup should be playing more. Now, maybe Mike Tomlin, who is as respected of a head coach as there is in the NFL, maybe he is going to be able to tightrope and juggle at the same time, because that's what they're trying to do here. And maybe it's just like Pittsburgh's like, look, our culture is fine. We bring in as many talented assets as possible, and we're going to find a way to win. Who knows? But Brenden, for the life of me, I can't figure out what they're doing. I cannot figure out what they are thinking here. Is Justin Fields insurance? Is this an actual quarterback competition? If Fields wins the job, which seems kind of ridiculous, but younger, if Fields wins the job, do you then release Russ and only take a $1.2 million hit? This whole thing's going to get nuts. It's going to get nuts. But it's going to continue to get nuts because Caleb Williams is now going to be the number 1 overall pick. RG3 says he should turn it down. Play RG3's comments and tell you why that's ridiculous coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a beautiful Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Oregon Ducks have punched their ticket to the big dance by winning the Pac-12 tournament. They beat Colorado on Saturday night. They are now an 11 seed. They will be facing 6 seed South Carolina on Thursday, 1 o'clock tip time from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Speaking of Pittsburgh, they made some quarterback moves over the weekend. Kenny Pickett, out. He's headed to Philly. Justin Fields, in. Is he Russell Wilson's backup? Is this an actual quarterback competition? We will find out because, how the turntables have turned. Women's NCAA tournament bracket is out. Oregon State is a 3 seed. They will host Eastern Washington on Friday down at Gill Coliseum, but are denied a potential Sweet 16 spot at Moda Center as they're on the Albany, New York side of the bracket. The Blazers will be playing at Moda Center against the Chicago Bulls later on tonight. Steve Tannen joins the show in 20 minutes. Hour 3 of Rip City Morning starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to the big show, everybody. It is bracket day. It is glorious. Start making your picks. Start pretending like you've watched any of these teams play for more than maybe, I don't know, a game or two, unless it is your team. Start recycling all your, 12's going to beat a 5. You know, it happens every year, 12 over. Who's your 12 seed? Who's your 12 seed? What's the biggest upset? Oh, who's got the toughest road to the Final Four? Who did the committee screw over? I guess Auburn's really upset today. Did you see Auburn? Won the SEC tournament. Hey, thanks, Auburn. You're playing in Spokane. Good luck with all that. Have fun in Spokane. But it is bracket day. As tomorrow, the first 4 is going to be tipping off there in Dayton. And then we'll have some more first 4 action. And then we got Thursday. Being on the West Coast is the absolute best. It is. And I'm going to talk about this again on Thursday as well. So just be prepared for it. But how would you wait until noon on Thursday to watch NCAA tournament games? It is going to be glorious. But the brackets are out. The brackets are hot. Oregon's in. Dana Altman makes another March run as the confetti falls in Vegas, and the Ducks, they were never even really on the bubble. After the regular season was done, and again, this is if Lenardi is right, which you want to talk about. I've always said the draft experts, I'm using air quotes, the draft experts is the biggest grift in sports. Well, let's hear what Mel Kiper has to say. Draft experts, because once the draft is over, we don't hold their feet to the fire. Oh, there's the famous Seattle Seahawks, I think, got a D- draft grade. And I was like, yeah, they drafted Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner. It's like Earl Tom. Yeah, you mean the makings of a Super Bowl team? Yeah. The next kind of best grift, bracketologist. Because there is no frame of reference. It's like, Lenardi had, was Oregon ever on the bubble? We don't know. Was Oregon on the bubble? I don't think they were. Their whole net rating was in the 60s. That usually doesn't get you in. You don't have the quad 1 wins were lacking. But yeah, these bracketologists are like, first 4 in, last 4 out, next 4 out. In the discussion, Oregon was in the discussion. Yeah, if all hell breaks, well, all hell broke loose. And they won 3 games of the Pac-12 tournament. They beat UCLA, Arizona, and Colorado. And they did not leave it up to the committee. They won it themselves. So coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to talk some Oregon hoops with Steve Tannen, my good buddy from down at 95.3 The Score in Eugene. Boots on the ground as Dana Altman, yet again, makes another run to the big dance. We do have an RCM mailbag coming up, but I wanted to play this Because now that the Chicago Bears have traded Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers, creating a very circus-like quarterback scenario in the Steel City, it now makes it very clear what the Chicago Bears are going to do, which we all kind of thought post-combine, right, is that the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams. They're going to probably ship Justin Fields. I made the crazy thought of, like, why not just have them both? Steelers have Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Why not have them both? And now that they traded him away, 3 years. 3 years. And the Bears are out of the Justin Fields business. And I get it because Caleb Williams, for what a lot of people believe, and I've watched Caleb Williams play a ton of games, even watched him at Autzen Stadium last year, and he made throws like I've never seen a college kid make. I mean, he, like, just unbelievable. Now, does he have the wiring? Does he have the competitiveness? That's all the stuff we're going to find out. But it's clear now that the Chicago Bears are going to be drafting Caleb Williams. RG3, who is, he is Captain Hot Take. And you know what? I respect it. Respect the hot take. Disagree with him a lot, but I respect the hot take. But Robert Griffin III, RG3, he went off this morning on X or Twitter or whatever on an interesting rant. Let's hear from RG3, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Caleb Williams should pull a Eli Manning and demand that the Chicago Bears do not draft him #1 overall. After everything that's happened with just Justin Fields, can Caleb Williams really look at that and say, you know what? This is the organization that has my best interests at heart, and they're going to help develop me into the player that I want to become. Caleb Williams is on record saying that he wants to be legendary. He wants to rewrite history, and he wants to be the best that he can possibly be and win the most games he can possibly win. After the Bears took Justin Fields, the 11th pick in the draft, and turned him into a 6th round pick in the 2025 draft by trading him to the Pittsburgh Steelers, can Caleb Williams really look at that and say, you know what? Yeah, this organization is going to help get me where I want to go. I don't think it's saying that.
All right, so there's RG3, once again, spewing the false narrative that an organization can derail the career of someone who is going to be an all-time great. Now, the Eli Manning thing is interesting because that's the one that everybody points to, right? Oh, well, the Chargers, yeah, so Eli Manning did go to the New York Giants, and he did win 2 Super Bowls, and he did have a Hall of Fame career. Phillip Rivers went to the Chargers, and it wasn't like he had an absolute bust of a career, and it wasn't like the Chargers completely derailed Phillip Rivers' career. So I don't think this is an apples-to-apples discussion, but everybody brings up the Eli Manning thing, right? Well, if you have any leverage, you should just – it's Eli Manning, and then it's John Elway. Those are the two. Now, John Elway had the advantage of being able to play baseball. He was drafted by the Yankees, and he said, listen, I'm not playing in Baltimore for the then Colts. Don't draft me. They did. He said, fine, I ain't playing. I'm playing baseball. I'm going to go play for the New York Yankees. They orchestrated the deal, ended up getting traded to Denver, and then there's the Eli Manning part of it. But, here's the thing that I get so frustrated with that people don't talk about. If you are a franchise quarterback, you change the franchise, not the other way around. If you are a franchise quarterback, you are the one that changed the franchise. Run it back real quick, Brenden, because there's one part that he said. Run it back real quick. It's only 30 seconds of RG3 this morning.
Caleb Williams should pull a Eli Manning and demand that the Chicago Bears do not draft him #1 overall. After everything that's happened with just Justin Fields, can Caleb Williams really look at that and say, you know what? This is the organization that has my best interests at heart, and they're going to help develop me into the player that I want to become. Caleb Williams is on record saying that he wants to be legendary.
Right there.
He wants to rewrite history. He wants to be the best that he can possibly be and win the most games he can possibly win. After the Bears took Justin Justin Fields, the 11th pick in the draft, and turned him into a 6th round pick in the 2025 draft by trading him to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Can Caleb Williams really look at that and say, you know what? Yeah, this organization is going to help get me where I want to go. I don't think it's saying that.
All right. So more things in there when you hear it again that are not true. First off, it's disingenuous to consider this as an apples-to-apples deal. Justin Fields is a 6th round pick because everybody in the league knows that Caleb Williams is there at number 1. If we were doing a Shark Tank valuation, I don't know if Justin Fields is a 6th round pick. He's not a 1st round pick. I don't know if we could say he's a 6th round pick. But the reason he is because everybody in the league knows that the Bears want Caleb Williams. So there's no way anybody's going to overpay for that guy. Also, to sit there and say, well, if Caleb Williams said he wants to be legendary, which they all say that, by the way, he says he wants to be legendary. After seeing what the Bears did with Justin Fields was getting better. The thing was, they got the Panthers pick, and the Panthers pick is number 1. If the Panthers didn't have the number 1 pick, if the Panthers had the number 4 pick, they're not trading Justin Fields. They're going to draft like Marvin Harrison Jr. and try to surround Justin Fields with some weapons. The difference is a once in a blue moon opportunity to have yet again another number 1 pick, this time in back-to-back years. 1 year it was yours that you earned. The other was gifted to you. And just so happens that Caleb Williams is at the top of the draft order. Is Justin Fields a 6th rounder if it's not a Caleb Williams draft and it's a Drake May draft? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. So, but here's the other. Franchise quarterbacks change franchises. Oh, they want to be legendary. Are the Bears going to allow? So the Bears have some mythical, magical thing that if you are a legendary quarterback, that you can't go there and succeed. Now, they haven't had a quarterback track record. I understand that, but I've pointed out multiple times. Since Jim Kelly, the Buffalo Bills have been irrelevant. Since Jim Kelly and the 90s Bills that went to 4 straight Super Bowls, which is unbelievable. But the Bills have been relatively irrelevant in the new millennium. Guess what? They draft Josh Allen. Move up to number 7, I think, to get him. Buffalo Bills are pretty good now. Haven't won a Super Bowl, but pretty good. Why? Because he changed the franchise, because Josh Allen's that good of a quarterback. The Kansas City Chiefs, before Patrick Mahomes, were a mediocre at best franchise with a reputation of being cheap. Now, they're still cheap. But guess what? Patrick Mahomes comes in there. Now they're the class of the NFL. Everybody is trying to be like the Chiefs. Before Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs were not that. The Chiefs were maybe a 1st round, but nothing legendary. The Cincinnati Bengals were known as the Bungles. Guess what? They draft Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's a franchise quarterback. He changed the franchise. The Jacksonville Jaguars were the joke of the NFL. Urban Meyer and such. Guess what? They drafted Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is a franchise quarterback. And they're no longer the biggest joke in the NFL. That now belongs to the Carolina Panthers, who's got Luke Combs going on TV complaining about him, which I love. Franchise quarterbacks change franchises, not the other way around. Oh, this franchise will derail your career. Yeah, if you're mediocre. If you are mediocre, a franchise will derail your career. Also, other than one run with Matt Hasselbeck back in 2005, the Seattle Seahawks, on an NFL scale, were a joke of an organization. It was a joke of an organization. When Pete Carroll took that job, people were like, does he want to dodge the NCAA that bad? And guess what? They got Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll and put together an all-elite defense. But Russell Wilson proved for at least a good chunk of time he was a franchise quarterback. They turn franchises around. Mediocre quarterbacks get derailed by bad organization and by bad ownership. That doesn't happen to great quarterbacks. So if Caleb Williams is great, he can go to any team in the NFL and he will make them great. If he is not the second coming, then yeah, his career is going to get derailed. But also, I've seen plenty of really good franchises. The Steelers are the best franchise according to a lot of people, not just me. But the Steelers are one of the best franchises in all of the NFL. They just shipped Kenny Pickett out in 2 years. Did they not develop him enough? Is that on the organization? Is that bad culture for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because they got 6 Lombardis sitting in that office. If you're a franchise quarterback, you change a franchise. Play these little games of, I should sit out of here. No, go to the Bears, be great. All right, speaking of great, Steve Tannen, he's great. Friend of the program, and he joins us next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it is very appropriate that of all days today, our next guest is going to be joining the show because for years and years and years down at my old home, his current home on 95.3 The Score in Eugene, on this particular day, we would have our 95.3 The Score Bracket Challenge, which, if I do say so myself, may be one of the greatest promotions we've ever run because we've run a lot of promotions that just kind of fell flat. This one actually hit, and it lasted for years and years and years, and is some of the most fun radio that I have ever done. So, let's get the band back together. Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score, now back on the show, here to talk some brackets and the Ducks and March Madness and everything. Steve, good morning. How we doing, bud?
We're doing great. You're right. It is a glorious time of the year, but in recent years, it's usually been the first Thursday or Friday night where I have my official bracket burning, so here's hoping I do better.
Well, here's the thing, Steve, where I think you and I can age ourselves when we talk about burning our brackets because I think a lot of the younger listeners are like, what are you talking about? You just delete the app. That's all you do, right? What do you mean? What do you mean set the bracket on fire? You just delete the app and then it's off your phone.
Yeah, well, once upon a time, I got my first full-time job. It was the year Jordan hit the baseline shot to win it for North Carolina. Ewing was a freshman, and I worked for this major corporation, and I picked Georgetown to go to the final, and I won a whole bunch of money, 1982. 2000, I rode Mike Miller in Florida to go all the way to the final game, won a bunch of money. That's it. Haven't had a good bracket in 24 years.
I think the only one I hit, not that I'm sure the listeners love us just talking about the brackets that we have. I'm sure this is dynamite radio, but I think it's great. My first year there on the air on The Score, when it was 1320 The Score, when I was in the broom closet there at the Cumulus building. Don't know if it's been occupied since, but that was the year the Rashad McCants and Sean May North Carolina team won it all.
05. Yeah.
Picked that one in 05. I have not picked a winner since.
And your first producer, T-Bone, who knew nothing about sports, the first year I met you, hit Kansas in 2008.
That's right.
So all the analysis and everything, yeah, right, I'll meet you there.
All right, so let's talk about the Ducks because what a run. They went from they were not even on the bubble. They wish 4 days ago, Steve, they wish they were on the bubble. Never had a team hoped to maybe hop on the bubble, and it's why March and Madness go together because college basketball, like, forget everything you watched for the past 4 months. 3 nights in Vegas for Oregon. All of a sudden, hey, what a run. This is what Dana Altman does. Never a doubt Oregon basketball in the tourney.
Absolutely fascinating. They needed to go back 2 weeks to maybe win at Arizona, then sweep the mountain schools to land on the bubble.
Yeah.
So to think that there was any chance heading to Sin City that they had to do anything but win the whole thing was kind of a pipe dream. But and I've been talking about this in that the story of them winning 3 games and beating Colorado is awesome. To me, like you mentioned, the true magic act, they refer to Altman as a guy who solves the Rubik's Cube, is how the heck in 13 days they went from giving up 103 points to Arizona to 59 and dominating the second half. They out-rebounded them. To me, that's always going to be one of the most incredible coaching jobs among the many this guy has done.
And, well, I know injuries has been the story of the year, and obviously still not out of the injury woods. There's a lot of guys that I'm sure Dana Altman would like to have, but getting N'Faly Dante back, getting him and then in shape and then healthy, and then even when it seemed like they kind of got some things going, another injury bug would hit. And then we sat on Friday, Steve, and I'm watching. It's like, of course, 2 plays in, Dante goes down, grabs his knee. He's like, oh, it was a fun run, everybody, but let's prepare for the NIT. The fact that he came back and then to have the game that he had against Colorado going perfect from the field in, kind of one of those what-if careers for Dante, Steve. It felt like that was finally the moment that maybe a lot of Oregon fans have been waiting, because he's been a physical phenom the moment he put on an Oregon uniform, but never really kind of had that big moment. Finally got it on Saturday where he went ballistic against Colorado.
Yeah, and the thing is, his career would have had that asterisk by it.
Yeah.
Great big, heart and soul player. Fans love him, coaches love him, teammates love him, but he never would have made it to the NCAAs, which is almost unfathomable because he's been here 5 years, and we know under Altman they always go. But he was hurt the first 2 times, then there was COVID, then he missed the last couple of years, and then it was like he decided down the stretch was like, well, if you guys aren't going to take me to the dance, I'm going to take me to the dance. Because not only was his shooting impeccable, I know he hasn't missed since like Valentine's Day or something like that. But he handles the ball really well, and that block he made late in that game where he maintained possession and kept the ball in bounds, leading to a couple of free throws, I mean, that was the icing on the cake. Just a dazzlingly brilliant performance to get Oregon to Pittsburgh.
Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score down in Eugene joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And, you know, Steve, I've always enjoyed Dana Altman post-game press conferences. I've always gotten a kick out of it because it could win by 30, and he's like, well, we didn't rebound. We didn't play any defense. Yeah, there's a lot of things we got to get back. I've always, like, on brand always for Dana Altman is we got to get better. We got to get better. I felt that there was kind of a shift towards this last weekend and really kind of around Senior Day and even heading into the NCAA or the Pac-12 tournament, Steve, where like I felt like Dana Altman kind of took maybe a different tact with this team, where maybe kind of realized maybe I should stop kicking them in the rear and start patting them on the back a little bit publicly. I don't know if it's that simplistic as to what kind of led to this run, but I felt like Dana's kind of changed his tune a little bit towards the end of the season. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, and I say all the time, when Dana Altman speaks, he's not going to scream and yell like Bobby Knight or Bobby Hurley. He's kind of got that subtlety to him. Listen to every word he says. And exactly along the lines, Justin, of what you said, I think it was the weekend before Arizona, he was angry with his team, and he said, normally I would bench him, but I can't because they're so thin because of all those injuries. So I think, you know, as the finish line approached, he was like, this clearly isn't working. Maybe I need a new tactic. And I think also, even though it was just a couple weeks, that rotation with the starting 5 and Diawara in to spell the big fella and Aquendo and Rigsby getting minutes here, I think it helped that he at least knew who he had at his disposal. Yeah. Barthélemy was gone. Biddle was not going to play. So I think at least with Altman, once he knows the arsenal at his disposal, he has a tendency to figure things out. But, yeah, his approach was completely altered as far as what he says and how he approaches it. I think that's a great point.
Here's what I also love. One, just about fandom in general, because at the end of the day, we're all just doofusy fans. And so I love this about fandom. I'm on a group chat with a good member of Oregon fans, some of which you may know. And all basketball season, it has been a lot of frustration about Oregon basketball and inconsistencies. And, you know, it's, as group chats get, as passion gets, Steve, it gets a little heated in this group chat with Oregon basketball. And then Saturday, all is redeemed. Sunday, I got the, I kind of like this bracket for Oregon. I kind of like this matchup. It is my favorite part of college basketball is like I said at the beginning, forget everything we've seen all season long. I got multiple texts from friends going like, South Carolina's a good draw. And then Creighton in the second round, maybe. Sweet 16, not too bad. Like, I love it.
The funny part about it is there were actually, I'm sorry to be so crass, the morons who were on the Fire Altman bandwagon. And now, like you said, there's some of those, well, if there's one team that's taken down UConn, it's probably the Ducks with that draw. So, you know, the complete 180. And fans by nature are not going to be overly analytical and rational, and plus with a keyboard in front of them and access to social media or text threads, they're reacting in the moment. So I think that's what you have to chalk that up to. I was more like, this is 3 years in a row they're not going to make the tournament. And Shellstad looks like a developmental guy. If a year from now they're 18 and 15 and heading in a neutral direction, I thought they may discuss it. But Altman made it apparent that he's not retiring, he's not going to go anywhere. And the even thought that his job was on the line right now is just, it wasn't reasonable.
Well, and here's what's interesting. Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I've mentioned it a couple of times, and some of it I think is just, look, times have changed. Some of it has to do with the building that MacArthur Court to Matthew Knight has changed. But, and also some of it went from, Oregon went from, and, Steve, we were there, a guy in Ernie Kent who loved selling the program, right? He was out and he would take every interview, he would take every request, and he was out and he was selling the program, to a guy in Dana Altman who was more about, no, I'm here to coach the team, I'm not here to sell. And I was worried, like, this year, like, what's the culture of Oregon basketball? Because we see Dan Lanning and that youthful energy and, always smiling, even though he's clearly irritated with some of the questions he's getting. But you see kind of the direction and the culture of Oregon football. It is boots on the ground, recruit, talent. And with Oregon basketball, I was kind of wondering where that is. I guess we just have to accept the fact, and we should have already, Dana's going to figure it out by March. Not every March, but for the most part, there's more evidence than there is not that the culture of Oregon basketball is take a deep breath. More often than not, Altman's going to figure it out by March.
Yeah, and I think there are multiple paths to success, and I think what you said about Lanning is spot on. He is a guy who embraces what is now. Look, players are transferring. All right, I'm going to lose some guys. I'm going to bring in even more guys. We're paying. There's NIL. All right, I'm going to be buddy-buddy with the boosters. You want to get Dylan Gabriel. You want to keep Bo Nix around for another year. You want to get Jordan Birch here. You handle the financial end. I'll handle the coaching end. With Altman, he has always embraced what he knows, and that's X's and O's, nuts and bolts, and coaching. And the cultural kind of, if this makes sense, build itself around that. And I don't have to tell you, like you just said, if it ends up with them in the tournament almost every year, people aren't going to worry too much that, oh, he's too understated, oh, he's too old school. It's like they're winning, they're selling tickets, and they're in the dance.
You and I also share this, which I love. You put it on Twitter yesterday. It is my favorite Steve rant every Monday after Selection Sunday, which is calling out the mediocre basketball teams that whine about not making the tournament. It's like, yeah, if only there was something you could have done before the Selection Sunday, before the committee ever got together. If there was ever something, and it's why, Steve, why I love the NCAA tournament, is because unlike we spent years and years and years debating the BCS. We spent years in Florida State will forever talk about how they got screwed in the last college football playoff. Like by tomorrow, we're done. We're done with St. John's. We're done with Seton Hall. We're done with these teams that were on the bubble. It's one of my favorite parts of the tournament. But also, if there was only something you could have done, like, I don't know, January, that maybe would change the outcome.
Yeah, it's funny because you think of the BCS era and, Auburn in 2004, won all their games and a conference title and didn't get in. They were the third best team in the country, maybe first, maybe second. That year, I think 2011, where Oklahoma had a case when it came down to Alabama and LSU. 2001, under different circumstances, Oregon goes and plays Miami and not Nebraska. All right, you're one of the 5 best teams in the country. I sense your frustration, but you lost 9 conference games. You just lost in the first round of your conference tournament. They're telling you you're maybe the 67th best team in the country, and you got snubbed. Yeah, that word should not exist on the late Sunday, early Monday vernacular. Plus, I don't like Pitino because he's kind of sleazy, so I'm kind of enjoying it.
Pac-12 ends. I mentioned it with Tyson Alger, I think, last week. Like, Pac-12 basketball or Pac-12 football ended with a bang, right? With Oregon and Washington and Vegas and Oregon State having a great year, and Arizona is on the come, and USC is still USC, and is like, why are we ending this conference? And it felt like Pac-12 basketball was going to kind of end with a bit of a whimper, but in the end, Colorado gets in. They were a team that was clearly on the bubble. We know Arizona was always going to be there, along with Washington State, and Oregon steals a bid. So, nice little run for the conference that is ultimately going kaput in a couple of months to get 4 teams in.
Well, prior to tip-off on Wednesday, there were 2 locks. It was the Cats and it was the Cougs. And the Buffs won their way to the final to get the at-large to go to Dayton, and Oregon wins the auto bid. So they went from 2, and like you said, with a whimper, to 4, doubling it up with a little bit of momentum. But I don't know how much you or your listeners listen to the Pac-12 network coverage. But, man, I got to tell you, as somebody, you're a West Coaster through and through, as somebody whose first memories of this conference were a guy named Lou Alcindor playing in the 1969 Final Four for UCLA. And then, I remember seeing OJ in the Rose Bowl. I love this conference. It's always been my favorite conference, top to bottom, all sports, diversity, all that. It's the greatest conference in college football history. And I always tell my wife, if I ever run into Larry Scott or George Kliavkoff in an airport, I'm going to go full jersey on him. I am still disgusted and nauseated that it came to this.
Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score in Eugene, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And I'm bringing this up for super producer Brenden and for his sake right now, because I'll be honest, Steve, I'm not that dialed in with women's basketball. I pay enough attention to get by if somebody asks a question, but I know that you are in on women's basketball, and producer Brenden came in and said, how does Oregon State, a number 3 seed, not get in the Portland bracket? What? Not only just a snub, but also, I live up here. I know the fandom and the passion for women's basketball that they have up here, not only in Portland but in the entire state. What a miss by the NCAA! How does that happen?
You want to know the truth? I didn't understand, and as we are talking, I texted Lindsay Schnell, who I don't know that either of us know anybody more wired in to women's basketball. So I asked her, here's my text, why would they not cite Oregon State at MODA like Oregon in 2019? Here's the answer. Because of seeding rules, top 4 seeds from the same conference have to be in different brackets or regions. So it's a numbers thing. It still sucks. And I'm also double ticked off that Iowa wouldn't wind up there because I was actually planning on going up. So that's the answer. It's not satisfactory. It's awesome they get 2 games at Gill, what Scott Rueck has built there. I mean, they were not supposed to be where they are now. I think they were picked 10th in conference, and they wind up top 12 in the country. So that's the answer. It sucks, but that's apparently the logic.
Of course, and you know what? Leave it to the NCAA, right, to have some conference rules. What conference rules? There are no conferences anymore. Stanford's in the ACC. Oregon State's independent kind of West Coast Conference next year. There are no conference rules anymore. What are they doing?
Well, actually, we should have Scott Rueck have a representative in front of the Supreme Court and saying, first of all, what is this Pac-12 you even speak of?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
We demand to be recited at MODA. So, no, it's awful, but apparently this was kind of predetermined.
Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score down in Eugene. Also, I don't know if you've ever done this as a fan. I'm sure you have. Steve, I'm fully talking myself into this whole Russell Wilson, Justin Fields thing's going to work. I don't know how. I've been an adamant you can't have 2 quarterbacks. I've also been a whole Russell Wilson should have never left Seattle because what he had with Pete Carroll. But I don't know. Something about just the last 48 hours has just changed my mind. I believe a 2-quarterback system, and Mike Tomlin, he's going to pull it off.
Yeah, like who was it in Arizona with Ortiz, Jenkins, and Keith Smith in 1998? I think that was the last time it succeeded, and it was at the college level. But, I know you're a Pittsburgh diehard, but I didn't realize just how bad Kenny Pickett was at throwing the football for touchdowns. You look at the ratio, and I don't love to live and die with analytics exclusively, but his 2 years, what do you have, 13 touchdown passes, like a 1.8 touchdown percentage, when really good is like triple that. So if I were a Steelers fan, I'd be like, I know it was early and you want to buy in, get that guy out of there. The bottom line is, in 2024, in football at any level, your quarterback has to be able to shred, and he was awful.
The universe is just laughing at me because I was dancing around making fun of my coworker Chad Dewing, who is a huge Broncos fan, because I told him the Russell thing wasn't going to work, and then the universe puts him on my team. So, Sports Universe is undefeated, Steve. It's undefeated.
And more importantly, it likes to mock us.
Exactly right. You can hear Steve on Crunch Time Sports Talk 95.3 The Score down in Eugene. You can follow him on social media at Sports Talk 953. Hey, Steve, have a terrific week, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
And remember, my gift to all your listeners, check my picks for March Madness. I'll have them up tomorrow. Do the opposite. Do your family and friends a favor. Make some money.
Hit that big fade. All right, Steve, have a good one, man.
All right, take it easy.
There you go. We have the RCM mailbag to wrap up the Monday show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's put a wrap on the Big Monday show. Once again, big thanks to Steve Tannen down in Eugene, Oregon, making another run. Like I said, that's Oregon basketball now. Like it's a weird thing to like have faith that they're always going to make it. They keep making all these runs.
So why did you not have the faith on Friday, Justin?
You want to know? Because I'm a big dumb doofus. Because again, like
you were guarding yourself against getting hurt again, which I think is real.
it also got to the point where it's like the more I trashed them, the better they played. So while I know it has nothing to do with it, I was like, I'm just going to continue. Because hey, what do you think about going to Vegas for the? I'm like, no, to watch this. Not going to Vegas. Like, would have been nice to go to Vegas.
Yeah, it
Would have been like if on Friday we got like a cheap flight out.
Do you think we just had like some crazy reverse psychology going on where, like I said, Justin being a Duck homer is like, nah, they're not going to win. Brenden being a Beaver homer is like, yeah, sure. So I think it just worked.
Like I said, you had the benefit of not watching them as much as I did.
The eyes were not blind.
The ignorance is a little bliss sometimes of like, yeah, they've got talent because sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. I think that's the right way you use that. Where you're not passionate, like, because if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I'm like, oh, this team, they just choke. And it's like, no, they're a good team dealing with injuries with a really good coach who's won so many games.
We had a conversation a couple weeks ago, Justin, when we're like, is it time to get worried about Dana? Like, we had that conversation on this radio program. So, hey, man, what's that old saying? Outhouse to penthouse overnight, man.
3 games. That's all it takes. 3 games. And you win 2 more, go to the Sweet 16. All of a sudden, this is a great one of the greatest seasons.
Year.
Isn't that nuts? Oregon wins. They beat South Carolina, which is a 1.5 point spread, in a neutral site, and then beat Creighton. This is one of the greatest seasons in Oregon basketball history. But like top 10, right? And it was terrible.
Almost left for dead, basically.
2.
Like, gotta love postseason basketball,
That's why it's
baby.
called the madness. All right, let's get to maybe one mailbag. All right, can't hear you.
Oh,
there we go.
There you are. Let's go back into the Wayback Machine a little bit here. As a kid or as a teenager, what was your favorite board game, and what was the game where you could just crush your friends at?
Okay.
Battleship generation?
We had Battleship. The neighbors, the Shockies across the street, had electronic Battleship, and that was awesome.
That's cool.
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool. Shockies are doing well. Comfortable.
I could do a whole 3 hours on that. But they had the electronic Battleship.
Nice.
I was not good at board games.
Really?
I think it was probably the patience I lacked. I love Monopoly until about half hour in, and I'm like, I'm done with this. We're all done, right?
Okay.
This is
interesting.
As a kid, Candyland crushed. Okay. Candyland was it. I was not into Sorry. Or was it Trouble? No, Trouble was the one there's Trouble, and there was Sorry.
Sorry's the game that teaches you to be a jerk to your friends.
But I will say, because we had the junior edition, my love. Trivial Pursuit was my jam. Trivial Pursuit was but we had the kids version. And then I remember my parents would have like Trivial Pursuit nights with like adults. And I'm like, I'm good at this. I'm good at this game. And they're like, you don't know any of these. And it's like, no, because I'm a precocious 9-year-old trying to explain, no, I am good at Trivial Pursuit. And my mom's like, that's the kid version. This is the adult version. Like, we're professional educators. We're not getting any of these. And you think you're just going to come in? But I do. I love Trivial Pursuit. That was my jam. All right. Fantastic show, everybody. Thanks to Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. We are back at it tomorrow morning bright and early on 620 Rip City Radio.